Hello everyone, I'm Amy from raisingarrows.net, and today I want to share with you how to plan for a Jubilee year in your homeschool. Now you might be wondering what a Jubilee year is, and honestly it's kind of a term I made up in the homeschooling realm, not so much in the biblical realm though, and I will tell you where I took this from was directly from the Bible. I'll read to you here from Leviticus 25:10. It says, "And you shall consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, when each of you shall return to his property, and each of you shall return to his clan." So that's where it comes from. It comes straight out of the Bible, this Jubilee year concept. It was every 50th year. They'd let the land rest. There was slaves that were let free. It was a time for everything to kind of reset. And so I took that concept and put it into our homeschool as a way for us to reset and to kind of start over, start fresh, take a beat, if you will, and sit back and do something different to make our homeschool more refreshing, more relaxing, and something that we would feel like continuing to do year after year. So we do a 4-year classical cycle basically in our school. It's a very relaxed form of classical education with a lot of Charlotte Mason mixed in. And we use Tapestry of Grace for this 4-year history cycle. So we're starting at creation and we're ending with modern times. And it takes about 4 years to go through that start to finish. And pretty much everything that we do revolves around that history cycle. In early 2017, we had just finished our 4-year cycle of history. My oldest son was getting ready to graduate from our homeschool and go off to college, and my husband was deploying. So it seemed like the perfect time for us to just kind of hunker down and do something different, and that is exactly what we did. We took what we now call a Jubilee year. I also had some curriculum I was looking at that I really wanted to try, but my kids were getting older, and I didn't want to lose the opportunity to be able to try some of these younger curriculum with them and see how they liked it and just enjoy something a little different, a change of pace, if you will. And so the year of 2017 on into 2018, we actually took a Jubilee year and we did something completely different. We turned homeschooling on its head and we did a different curriculum. We actually did several different curricula. We changed what we were doing for Bible. We even added morning time with more extensive morning time activities and subjects into it. It just really changed how we were homeschooling. And actually, some of those changes came into the rest of our homeschooling from there on out. But here we are again, and we have just finished another 4-year cycle of Tapestry of Grace. And I'm thinking, this might be a really good time to take another Jubilee year. The 2 oldest kids that I have been homeschooling recently are graduated now, or at least close to it, and no longer are going to be doing the history cycle with us anymore. They're just kind of finishing out what subjects they have. And so I decided that we should take, with the younger kids who are 14 and under, a time of Jubilee where we are changing the pace and having a little bit more liberty and freedom to do things a little bit differently for the next school year. So we're getting ready to take yet another Jubilee year. So I'm going to share with you how to plan for a Jubilee year and what you want to consider as you are planning for a year that is different from your typical homeschooling year, that gives you more freedom and change of pace. So first of all, I'm going to talk to you about changing the pace in your homeschool. Perhaps you've been really running and gunning with your curriculum. There's lots of things you want to get through. You've been really pushing with it, and perhaps you want to kind of slow things down, or you feel like everybody kind of needs a break. This may be the way for you to change the pace of your homeschooling for 6 months to a year. Call it a Jubilee homeschool year and totally change the pace of how you are homeschooling. This may mean that you homeschool only 4 days a week or only 3 days a week. This may mean that you only homeschool a couple of hours every day. This may mean that you take out all of the non-essentials from your homeschool day, or it may mean that you only do the non-essentials. You do the extra projects and the fun things, and you take a break. Sometimes we call this holiday school when it falls around Thanksgiving or Christmas, and we'll just do all Christmas projects. That is a form of Jubilee homeschooling where you're changing the pace and you're changing the curriculum and you're doing something that is outside of your norm. Another way to change the pace is to simply not have your children do as much work every single day. You may only have them do math 2 or 3 times a week. You may change up how often you are doing certain subjects, certain projects, and you may even drop a co-op that you may have been participating in. You just change the pace somehow. But you also can change the pace by speeding things up. A Jubilee homeschool year doesn't necessarily have to be a slow down kind of thing. It may be more of a paring down, which leads me to the idea that a Jubilee homeschool year can give you freedom. It's liberty. It's your chance to do something different. And that is something that we actually did. That's probably more part of the equation of what my Jubilee homeschooling looks like, is that opportunity for me to take those different subjects and projects and curricula that I have not been able to fit into my school day, and I get to try them. We get to do them for a year. We get to change the pace. So for instance, we did our history, and then I switched to something that was more of a unit study feel. And that's actually what we're currently doing. We switched to something that is more of a unit study based on Little House on the Prairie books. So this Jubilee homeschool year, I have the freedom to do something completely different. We're not basing our homeschool on history this year. We're basing it on a set of books. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's something different. It's something we've never done before. However, this particular curriculum is written for younger kids. So I knew that my window of opportunity to try this curriculum with my kids and just to enjoy it was actually fading very quickly. And I needed to go ahead and take that Jubilee homeschool year when I could and try some new curriculum. Now, obviously, you can add new curriculum into your homeschool anytime you like, even with your typical normal homeschooling schedule and routine. However, if you're wanting to turn all kinds of things on their head, that would be the way to do it. Is just take an entire year out and do something different. Our science is changing, our history is changing, our read alouds are different, our Bible is different, everything is just different. And even the structure to the homeschool has changed a bit. And that leads me to another way that you can have a Jubilee homeschool year is simply by changing the schedule. Do something different. Only school in the afternoon, only school in the morning. Have just a couple of hours in the evening that you're doing something as a family. Change the schedule. Do your homeschool projects first. Do the independent schoolwork first, and then do the projects in the afternoon. So changing your schedule can sometimes be just what you need in order to loosen things up a little bit, lighten things up, help refresh everybody, and give everybody a little bit of breathing room. Ultimately, a Jubilee homeschool year is meant to be refreshing. So you need to consider what it is that will help you feel refreshed when it comes to homeschooling. So think about the things that are actually bogging you down right now about your curriculum or your schedule or the way that you're going about things. What things feel like there may be a little too much, there may be a little stressful, you're kind of bothered by certain aspects of your homeschool. Really consider those. Write those down, brainstorm, just pour it all out on paper, and even include your children. Ask them, what are the things that you're not really enjoying about school right now? And perhaps you can glean from that a list of ideas to include in your Jubilee homeschool year. For instance, maybe your kids are really irritated by the science because there just doesn't seem to be very many experiments and they just aren't getting it. It's not very hands-on. It doesn't make a lot of sense to them. That gives you an opportunity to realize, hey, we could add in some experiments into our Jubilee homeschool year, do less of the book work for this year and more experiments. And so you kind of pour into the experiments, you pour your time and your energy into that, and you slow down on the actual book work of the science lessons. Maybe you have some artsy kids and it seems like you're just never getting enough art into them. This might be your opportunity to find an art curriculum that you enjoy and add it in once a week or twice a week, but make it a part of the Jubilee homeschool year, because if you are slowing down and if you are giving yourself liberty to change the pace and change the schedule and change the curriculum, then you should have more time and opportunity to add in things like art and nature walks and picture studies and music and all of these other things that maybe you've struggled to put into your homeschool day. A Jubilee homeschool year is a good opportunity to add those things in and see how they fit with your homeschool day. And like it happened with us, we added a more extensive morning time with that first Jubilee homeschool year that we did, and it actually stuck. It ended up being something we really enjoyed, and we have continued it to this day, where we have a much longer morning time where we're doing much more activities and subjects together before they go off and do their independent schoolwork. It was a change in our pace that has really worked well for us. Now, perhaps you are pregnant, or you're in the middle of a move, or there's some big life circumstance happening, a home renovation. Anything like that can change the schedule and the tenor of your home, actually. It can change how you feel about things. It can change the amount of time you have to give to homeschooling. And so this may be an opportunity for you to do a Jubilee year as well. And that kind of Jubilee year would actually probably look more like a way pared down version of a typical homeschool year for you. This may be the time, not when you add in a different curriculum, but where you take things out, not where you do more projects and nature walks, but where you really just pare things down to the very basics, the very bare minimum. You maybe even make a schedule where on Monday is math and Tuesday is science and Wednesday is history and Thursday is whatever, and you make a schedule where you're only putting one subject into each day, and that becomes your Jubilee homeschool year. Something much more pared down, much calmer and more peaceful, especially if there's a lot of chaos in your home currently. That may be a good way for you to kind of just sit back, relax, refresh, and not have to do so much. That is also another form of taking a Jubilee homeschool year. Remember, this is about the pace and the freedom, and it is also about going back to your clan. I don't know if you caught that at the end of that verse in Leviticus, but it talks about going back to your clan, going back to your family. Taking a Jubilee homeschool year is a time for you to reconnect with your family. It is a time for you to go back to your clan and to really focus on the people within your home. So that may look like you doing extra projects and things like that, or it may mean that you just have time, space, margin, the ability to sit on the deck and talk with your kids because you're not racing through life, the ability to read a book to them when they ask you to because you're not worn out from life and homeschooling. A Jubilee year is the time for you to figure out what really matters and to reconnect with your family, to refresh everyone in the home, and to give everyone the chance to just breathe. So don't feel like you've got to have this Jubilee homeschool year with art and nature and Little House on the Prairie books and projects. You don't have to make it look like that. It really can look like a very pared down school year because you're looking for that refreshment, whatever it is that refreshes and energizes you and your children. So start with yourself. I always tell mothers this when you're looking for curriculum, when you're looking for a schedule, when you're looking for plans. Start with yourself. And the reason for that is because you are the one who is teaching this material. You are the one who has to put in the effort, and therefore you need to start with how your brain works, how your day goes, how your circumstances are falling into line, and then consider the children. But first you need to start with yourself. What kind of schedule, what kind of curriculum, what kind of planning, what kind of resources, what kind of projects can you manage this year? What would that look like for you to really refresh your homeschool mom's soul? Does that look like more spontaneous projects, field trips, and nature studies and nature walks? And perhaps it's a little Charlotte Mason group that you've always wanted to join, but you didn't feel like you had the time. Perhaps those are the things that do refresh your soul, and that's what you need to take the time for in your Jubilee homeschool year. Or perhaps you need everything to just calm down. You need everything to be quiet and calm and peaceful because you've had a really rough year. That might mean that you actually hunker down, you do less, you go less places, and you do less work. It also may be that you need to get online classes for your kids, or you need to outsource to a co-op, or you need to have a friend help you with these things. That may be your Jubilee year as well. So start with yourself, number one. Number two, look at your kids individually and figure out what feeds their souls and see what of those things you can add in to your Jubilee homeschool year. Perhaps you have a kid who really wants to do those science experiments. Can you help them once a month to do a couple of science experiments? Can you get a science experiment kit that they can do on their own? Is there an older sibling that can help them? Or is there a friend or a grandparent who can come in and do an experiment once a month with them to feed their souls the way that they feel refreshed? Perhaps everybody needs to spend more time out. I can totally attest to the fact that spending more time outside will refresh you, especially if you have a fenced-in area where you don't have to be on guard all the time about losing little kids or what they're getting into, but you all just have the ability to run and play or sit in the shade and read a book. There's all kinds of ways that being outside refreshes your soul. So that may be a really great option for you in this Jubilee homeschool year, is to just go outside more. Maybe this is a year that you want to take every single subject straight from the Bible. You want to find curricula that focuses on math from the Bible, science from the Bible. You want to really study the Bible in depth with your children. This would be a great opportunity for you to do that, to research those resources and just dive headlong into that without worrying about any of the extra subjects and that you're not getting those things in. Now, some of you may worry that taking a Jubilee homeschool year will completely throw you off track and you won't ever be able to pick back up. And of course, for me, like I said, we do a 4-year history cycle, so I know exactly where I'm going to pick back up at. But perhaps you're feeling like, hey, we're already behind in math, or we're already behind in history, or whatever it is you feel like you're behind in. I will be honest with you here, and this is where you really just have to trust yourself, trust the Lord, and gain some confidence in the fact that you are your child's best teacher. There are often times that everybody needs a break in order to do a better job, in order to be more efficient. We need to take breaks. The Lord gave us a day of rest for a reason. It might be that you need a day of rest in your homeschool. And so taking that break and just breathing a little, even if it's just for 3 or 4 months, changing things up, doing things different, taking that Jubilee year will give you an opportunity to take that breath and to come back in refreshed. So don't worry about getting off track. Allow yourself to get off track, but I can almost guarantee you that when you come back to it, it will be better. It will be more efficient. You will get back on track faster because everybody has had a break. Many times throughout the years when my kids were learning to read, I would realize that they just weren't getting it. And so I would take a 6-month break from teaching them any sort of phonics. And almost every single time when we came back after that 6-month break, they quickly learned to read. Like it was no big deal, like they'd known all along. It was crazy. But what I realized was number one, they weren't ready. And number two, they probably just needed a break. We were pushing and pushing and pushing, and it just wasn't working. So perhaps this Jubilee homeschool year is a chance for you to stop the pushing, reconnect with your children, go back to your clan, take that liberty and freedom that you have in homeschooling and educating your children at home, and latch onto it in a different way, in a way that is more relaxed and refreshed. Take a break. Allow yourself to breathe. Allow your children to have wonder and explore and enjoy new things. It will give them a lasting impression. I guarantee you, it will create memories, and it will allow them space and time and energy to build a lifelong learning habit where they actually enjoy learning, and they learn how to pull out information from resources, and they learn to just be. They learn to abide and to sit and enjoy life and life's lessons. So just to recap, if you are planning on having a homeschool year, you want to look at changing the curriculum, changing the pace, changing the schedule, or giving yourself more freedom, or doing all of those. Remember to look for what refreshes you and what refreshes your children. And remember to consider your circumstances, the life that God has given you, the children that God has given you, and to find a way to go back to your clan, go back to your people, reconnect with your family. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful homeschool year, friends.